Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Grondy, reporting for the Main Event Marks YouTube channel and the Dragon Suplex Podcasting Network. And it's been a big few days in wrestling. I know I always say it, and I always mean it. When I look back at the last time I recorded everything that's happened, everything that I want to talk about, it always seems big. It always seems bigger than I understood it. When I reflect back after I do my little intro here, it seems big. It seems 3 hours big. Monday Night Raw. Raw feels hot right now. Rollins' heel is crossing over to just being super over. Riddle is over. And it took a while, but I think the angle with Edge and Ray might be helping Judgment Day get super over. They got a cool-looking shirt. I will wear a cool-looking shirt from a bad wrestler more so than I would wear a bad shirt from a good wrestler. That's just how it works. So having a good shirt is half the battle. Just ask Bullet Club. Gargano versus Gable was an awesome match. New women's tag champs. The fact that I'm even covering that as news on the show is something notable to talk about. Shows they're going a long way with these tag titles. I think it's good to get them on the new faction. All in all, I think Raw is doing good shit with Hunter at the helm. Lee. I also think the UFC did good shit. They kind of showed AEW up. This is what you do when there's shit going down at your press conference and people kind of find out about you. Use it for your TV. Of course, MMA is different than pro wrestling, so it allows you to be able to utilize it a little more than you would be able to if you were AEW. They had a shit show of a press conference, and mainly because they are a different product than AEW, like I just said, they were able to do something about it. Just like I just said, I said it and then I read it because I was gonna say it, and here we are saying it twice. And they were able to capitalize on it. Here we go again. All their talent fighting backstage and not making weight, so they switched it up and they made a more interesting show because of it. Thus left people talking about the show after the press conference and not talking about the press conference after the show. This begs the question, should AEW do a media scrum before the big shows? I think so. Make sure their guys are good headspace before going out there, unlike CM Punk was, obviously, and ready for more media attention before they potentially injure themselves, bleed in front of 20,000 people, all kinds of things like that. So maybe mix up the way they do these media scrums from here on out. Maybe even like a Thursday night. So, you have Dynamite, then you have the media scrum, then you have, Rampage, then you have the pay-per-view. This is just me brainstorming here, guys. Or maybe even live before Rampage, so kind of get people interested in the bigger show before Rampage, which is usually a skippable show, especially right before the main show, the big show. Tony Khan said that maybe real life heat may be good for TV. People always bring up Sean and Brett, but there was no internet at that time. And that ultimate payoff we did not see because, that happened in the back. So there's no video of that. UFC got video of their bottle throwing incident or whatever the hell happened. Where Dana, who books MMA, can have a payoff take place in front of viewers. So, Tony can't really have this real life beef and drama really take place the way we want it to. In front of viewers, unless he's going to just start shit and then start filming it, kind of like, I don't know, that just seems fucked up, like some bum fights kind of thing. But, UFC 279 took place, fun night of fights. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, Li Jingliang, The Roach, versus Daniel Rodriguez. You got to love this fight here. Daniel Rodriguez covered in tattoos, Jingliang, The Roach, I'm just going to say The Roach, super over with the crowd because he's got swag. He was taking pictures in a suit. He looks good with the gelled hair. So it seems like people are cheering for him. The best male Chinese fighter in UFC history. But Rodriguez had some size on him. He looked like a guy you wouldn't want to fuck with at like a music festival, like a metal music festival. Tatted, belly, the whole nine. Not much happens in round one. They both come out of the blocks hot like a bat out of hell. Round two, it seemed that Lee was being saved by the bell, and then round three looks like it was going Rodriguez's way. It was going Rodriguez's way. He won. Respect as the bell sounded. Dan Rodriguez gets the victory, and not much happens here either. He doesn't cut a crazy promo. I guess I'm kind of spoiled now with McGregor and you know, some of these interviews we're about to hear, that you expect these guys to be fucking nuts, and sometimes they're just badasses who fight and make money, which is, you know, kind of cool. Kevin Holland versus Kamiev. I know how to say his last name because I know this fighter. I feel like he's the heel. He's the star that was made. You had the main event, which, you know, sold the tickets of the stars already made. Where I feel like this guy, as far as his heel persona, was made at 279 press conference and 279 the show. Kamiev, he comes out getting booed for what happened at the press conference earlier that week. He weighed in 7 pounds overweight. So, you know, he could not fight the legend Nate Diaz, which is good because I think he would have whooped Nate Diaz's ass and people would not have liked the show as much. You wouldn't have had as good of gifts and things going around social media the next day. They come hot off the blocks here, just like the last fight, but they're really going at it here. And Kamiev just catches him in a choke super early, taps him out. And when he wins, people are booing. He cut a promo saying that he doesn't need to cut weight. He'll kill anybody. And then Joe Rogan kind of just goes like, well, you kind of need to cut weight. He says he's the most dangerous guy, that he'd die in a cage. You know, I looked into it, or I didn't really look into it. I guess this is common knowledge, but he's in the same weight class, typically, if he cares enough to be, as Usman, as Edwards, the new champion, is. So I think this, and those guys are kind of over as faces. People like these people. They have nothing against these people. So I think he's sitting 3 or 4 in the division. That's a fight that will sell. So he's doing a lot here by just talking shit and maybe just being kind of lazy. Usman and Edwards, there's talk about that happening at Wembley Stadium, 80,000 people, which would be fucking insane. You got the British World Champion. That's a marquee event. We just saw WWE in the UK, and they, you know, spectacle of a show. But why not Wembley? Why not Wembley? They should have put it in Wembley. Maybe it's expensive to go to Wembley. We'll see. I'm excited. But jump into the main event. Frazier versus Nate Diaz. Just like you had the heel in the last fight, you had the classic legendary face who sold the tickets for this show. I go online, casual supporters for Nate Diaz were just, that's all they were talking about was Nate Diaz, this whole show. It was just the Nate Diaz show, kind of like Hogan in the 80s. UFC 279 is Nate Diaz in the modern era, who pretty much whooped his ass. He pretty much just came in and whooped Frazier's ass. I mean, it was stretched out a long period of time. It wasn't as quick as Kamiev did, but I think Kamiev would have caught Diaz early with a choke, where in this instance the guy who sold the tickets won. So you left send the crowd home happy, and not only won, as he's choking him out, of course you guys have seen this, he's flexing on him, which is a good fucking move. You know, speaking of Hulk Hogan, here's Nate Diaz flexing, sending the crowd home happy, and it all ties back around to that reference I made earlier. Lots of talk here with the Bucks sending quote-unquote feelers. It was reported by WrestlingObserver.com by a lower-level guy, I guess, in WrestlingObserver.com. And then, you know, the moneymaker, Dave Meltzer, had to put a kibosh to it. But the quote is, the report was that the Bucks were putting out feelers. And then Dave Meltzer said the Bucks aren't in contact with WWE. So there is still room for both of these things to be true. Sending out feelers could be telling a guy to tell a guy, telling a guy to tell quote unquote WWE, and then you're not ever really talking to WWE. But I think that the Bucks going to the WWE would be ridiculous. I don't think that they would mesh very well with it. Yes, of course, Cody went, Drew McIntyre went. You can have all these examples of guys who are stars in the Indies going back. But I mean, I guess ironically enough, the guys I just named were also former WWE guys. And then you could bring up Gargano doing so well with the size he is. Well, Gargano is a way better wrestler than the Young Bucks. I'll say that right now. And a way better actor. I think Matt could hold his own as far as acting, but I think Nick is a charisma dud unless you ring the bell and have him, doing these light heavyweight tag matches that he's known for. He kills it in that realm, but I don't think that he would kill it in a one-on-one match, and I don't think that he has like the acting chops to kind of do what they want to do with their wrestlers in the WWE. Last guys with their size who got super pushed in the main events, I guess you'd have to say like J&J Security. I think you'd have to say like the Bollywood Boys with the Singh brothers, with Jinder Mahal. And I'm not even trying to make fun of. I mean, look at even in I guess you could say Tyler Bate is their size, but Tyler Bate is, he's a big, strong boy. He's a lot stronger, so that's a physical attribute that you could sell because that's real. So I don't think the Young Bucks would do well in WWE. Did they get in this fight, and that means they're getting fired from AEW? Probably. The last people you can really say that has their pedigree, like going to Japan, being big on the indies, you say maybe the Good Brothers, and they were kind of, AJ's lackeys for a little while, and then they kind of won the titles, but those were forgettable moments, and then they fell to the wayside. So I don't think the Young Bucks would do well in the WWE. I do like the Young Bucks in AEW as far as their matches. I enjoy the Young Bucks, don't get me wrong, but I do not think they would do well in the WWE. Someone who didn't do too well in the WWE as far as in 2021 is Bobby Fish. He got cut, and he got, his contract did not get extended in AEW. Says Punk was being cunty after their match in AEW. Yep, he said it, and says he's lucky that he didn't Haku his ass on live TV. Love Haku as a verb. That's a great way to say it. I'm going to just non-wrestling fans. Like, someone's complaining to the barista backing up the line. I'm going to go up there and Haku their fucking ass so then everyone can get their fucking espresso drinks. But that's interesting because Fish was getting regular like mid-card matches until this match with Punk. So it did kind of seem like out of nowhere, he was, kind of in the forefront having mid-card matches with like Lee Moriarty and stuff. And then before you know it, he's standing behind someone who's cutting a promo backstage. So there is kind of a pattern here with maybe, I'm not saying that Punk told Tony Khan to not use Bobby Fish, but I do think Tony Khan sees where his money's at. And if Punk doesn't like Bobby Fish, or if Punk doesn't like someone else, maybe someone else like Colt Cabana, it would be Tony Khan who moves them aside, and not necessarily Punk making a demand that whoever wrestler would be, kind of not used as much. And I saw the incident that kind of got tensions flared up here. It was a Punk hit his finisher on Bobby Fish, and then it was like 1, 2, 3, and at 3.1, 3.5, he kicks out instead of like laying there dead. And this was Punk's finisher. This is like, the finisher that everyone wanted to see by the guy who brought the house. So I can understand why you would do that, but then you got to think Bobby Fish's perspective is like, this was a hard-fought matchup. Yes, you got me, but, he's, as he kind of gloated about, he has a traditional MMA background. So, getting someone for 3.5 seconds still is good, and it adds kind of a realistic nature to him kicking out right away. I don't know. I don't really know too much of wrestling etiquette with this one. He also says like Punk fucked up by stealing Kenta's finishing move, calling it the same thing. That is kind of a big no-no, but I mean, Kenta was in Noah, and when CM Punk initially took that move, he was just an indie guy. So, indie guys taking shit from Japan, I mean, there's people in AEW who that's their whole fucking gimmick, is to just, that they're marks for what people are doing in Japan. But where do I want to see Bobby Fish? I'd want to see Bobby Fish help push this NXT Europe thing. Hopefully they're making that a bigger deal than they did NXT UK. And if so, I think Bobby Fish and Ilya Dragunov and Roderick Strong and Tyler Bate could really get that company going, kind of have a light heavyweight, more mixed martial arts feel to that whole brand. And I think Bobby Fish could be a guy to help push that brand, maybe be a player coach kind of thing over there. Or I could see him in New Japan, Best of the Super Juniors, coming up in the winter. I could see him doing lots of things away from AEW, but it looks like he's pretty damn comfortable in this interview. He shaved his mustache, had the gray hair, just growing, and then he was used as CNN's picture for unemployed people. I don't know how they found him. I don't know why CNN picked him, because he is unemployed, don't get me wrong, but he's like a millionaire who's unemployed, or maybe not a millionaire, but 100,000-aire. He's living comfortably. So yeah, Bobby Fish, loosely affiliated with the Elite, doesn't like CM Punk. You could have called it, but it's very funny that we didn't have to call it, and he just came right out and said it. Kenta backs Bobby Fish. Kenta said, yeah, the most frustrating thing is for 4 years I couldn't do my own finisher that I created because there's some guy who's not even in the company anymore who did it for a while, So FTR did an interview talking very highly of Punk, talking highly of how Punk is working pretty hands-on with guys like Danhausen, guys like Will Hobbs, trying to get them to be better wrestlers. And FTR likes them. He wrestled Lee Moriarty. He wrestled Daniel Garcia before it was, really, really cool to wrestle Daniel Garcia. So I kind of think maybe Punk, his intentions were in the right place, but he was a dickhead 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. Maybe didn't care to play political games, and that gave people enough reason to not like him. And then when he goes off on them saying that they can't manage a target, they get pissed about that. And I put the poll out there as like, do you think the Elite could manage a target? And they said, most people said they could, but then in the comments, people were like, it's probably hard to manage a target. Especially, in the times we just got out of with the pandemic and everything. So, maybe Punk needs to pull a Mark Cuban, because I remember Mark Cuban made a comment about managing a Dairy Queen. And Dairy Queen hit him up and said, hey, if you think it's so easy to manage a Dairy Queen, why don't you come and work for us? He did, got the publicity, and it became a fun little thing. But right now, he just fired shots at Target. And Target's got no beef with CM Punk. But going into AEW Rampage, Joe versus Woods, that fight's going to be pretty good. That fight was made at Rampage. Mira promo always cracks me up. How can a man who can see everything be so blind to everything? He says he's talking about God, but in AEW, is his God Tony Khan? I don't know. As funny and as overly dramatic as these promos are, they always hit a little deeper than maybe I'd like to admit a wrestling show can pull out of me. I don't know. Jade promo, good. The Powerhouse Hobbs promo was good. There does seem to be a little something in the air here where, like, AEW's got a bit of a relaunch where you can kind of hear from these promos. I mean, not just Moxley, not just Jericho, but like Wardlow, Hobbs, Jade. You can kind of see all these, a little bit of fire in these promos. As far as the matches go, I'm not going to rank them. There's only 3. Darby versus Sammy, great match, awesome match, in a string of great matches from these two. Ty in the way of Darby's dive. Darby dives anyways, but gets caught in a cutter by Sammy in midair. That was fucking cool. That was probably the coolest thing that happened on this whole damn show. The kiss. Darby dives again and connects. Darby takes Sammy's wedding ring off. Sammy hits a double springboard cutter, almost slips, but catches himself. 1, 2, no. Sammy getting a skateboard after mocking the coffin drop. Anna Jay comes out, distracts. There's a skateboard in the ring. Something happens here. I'm getting all tangled up. But Sammy does powerbomb Darby on a skateboard. Trucks facing up. GTH 1, 2, 3. Sammy Guevara moves on in the tournament. I don't see Sammy going far in this tournament. I see Chris Jericho winning this tournament. I think going back to square one, going back to the basics, getting one of the most over guys in the company the entire time, an AEW original, who's probably never done anything shitty backstage. Put the title on him, but you don't want to break up the Jericho Appreciation Society, so you got to have Mox beat Sammy next week, and then you got to have Jericho beat Bryan next week, and because you want to keep those factions intact. I don't want tension in the Jericho Appreciation Society or the Blackpool Combat Club. I think those factions are working, and I think you can build a company on those 2 factions. Madison Reigns and Serena Deeb, battle of the coaches here. Deeb taps Madison Reigns out. Dax versus Cesaro, main event. This was great. Dax holding his own here, frustrating the champ in a way. Lands a diving headbutt like Harley Race. Dax might have some believers in the crowd. They were you could see them kind of cheering for the underdog here, the tag team guy. 1, 2, Claudio kicks out. Dax fighting. Claudio landing some lariats. 1, 2, Dax kicks out. Claudio hits another lariat. Slingshot Liger bomb from Dax. 1, 2, Claudio kicks out again. Both men down. German. Paul Turner with a sloppy pin count. Almost took me out of it. Almost took the crowd out of it. Almost crowned Dax. Sharpshooter. Claudio in trouble. Claudio counters the sharpshooter into a sharpshooter of his own. Dax taps out. Great match. Sammy and Darby was almost as good as Dax and Cesaro. Dax and Cesaro was a pretty good match, and it was the main event, so you can't really complain. Looking forward to Dynamite. Looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with this new AEW. I hate to constantly compare them to WWE, but, Reigns is not on every show. Brock Lesnar's not on every show. You bring them out, a couple times a year. To get huge pops, So, yes, of course, we just sat Omega out and Punk out all summer long, but having them completely gone out of storyline, when you bring them back, it's going to be pretty hot. And it's good to kind of get all these guys out of the way because you need to heat up MJF. You need to, heat up Wardlow. Blackpool Combat Club can kind of hold their own. They're already over. Jericho Appreciation Society, they're already over. Jade has, held this title for a long time now. When is she going to get pissed and go after Toni Storm? I want to see these questions answered on my AEW product. And I think with 4 of the top 10 guys gone, I think that kind of leaves some space up there at the top. Who's going to take the top spots? I'm tuning into Dynamite and finding out, and I hope you guys are too. And I hope you guys enjoyed this fucking podcast. As always, fly high. I'm out.